Thank you all. Welcome to this ninth installment of the CI2TG, and it's your guy Craig, aka Petty Pendergrass, aka Zen Affleck, depending on which day you catch me. Also, your Chargers truth broker every day, and we are here. The week is upon us. Time to get down to the nitty gritty, see what this team's going to be adding in the draft. And look, like most of you guys, I'm just ready to get this thing rolling. I'm tired of all like the smokescreen news, the crazy stories that are coming out that won't materialize. Could some of this stuff be true? Yeah, but typically a lot of the action you're going to see is going to take place maybe just before the thing gets rolling, a few hours before. Sometimes deals and trades get done then, but usually what you'll see is what happens on the clock. And I think actually that's a lot of what happens when we're talking about the Chargers if they make any moves whatsoever, because I'm sure they have like a plan A, B, and C, potentially D, E, whatever. But they've got a few things in mind, and I think it really all just depends on how the board goes. So, and that's not unlike every other team. So I'm not saying anything to you that you probably did know or suspect already, but just wanted to chat a bit today about some of my favorite draft scenarios. I could be completely off on all of these because what do I know? I'm just a fan. I have an opinion like the rest of you guys. But it's just some stuff that makes sense to me. And again, I'm always going to follow the breadcrumbs. So this is how things are lining up, in my opinion. My favorite scenario is, like most of you, trading back into maybe the late 20s, or might even have to go into 30, 32 with the Lions at the back end to recoup that second round that you lost in trading for Khalil Mack. And personally, I think that's where a lot of the value is in the draft. The back end of the first round, going into the second, into the third, hell, even into the fourth, depending on which position you're talking about, because there are some quality guys to be had at specific positions of need. Option number two, trading back into like the early to mid 20s, maybe picking up an extra third. Even that's fine. Again, just all depends on how or what position you go after early in the first, and what you can get your hands on to kind of form the remainder of your draft picks, and then you can kind of decipher what plan you want to roll with from there. And then we got like option three, which is sticking and staying at 17. And at that point, my guy, I've made no bones about it, is hashtag do it all Dax, Mr. Daxton Hill from Michigan. I've explained my rationale why behind that, and I think 17 is not an issue in regards. I don't think it's an overdraft for him whatsoever when you think about the value and everything he brings to the table. Now, ideally, if you could trade back and still get him at like 20 something, that'd be awesome too, and recoup a pick. Wouldn't hate that. And option number four, whoever remains from that group of tier one wide receivers, and for me, that group kind of ends with like Olave. Y'all know how I feel about Treylon Burks. He's my favorite wide receiver in the draft. Doesn't make him the best wide receiver, but just my personal favorite. And for a lot of his traits, I think he projects out really well long term. But because of the fact that the team extended Mike Williams, to me, it doesn't really make sense to bring in Treylon, even though he'd add that yak ability that we don't really have in the receiving core. A lot of the skills are kind of redundant. Another big body, contested catch dude. He's faster, especially long speed. But, you know, the Chargers need quicker, more explosive, short area dude, one play touchdown cat, someone who could catch a screen, take it to the house from 70 out. Someone who doesn't need to have plays manufactured for them. Well, take that back. You can manufacture yards for them by throwing screens, things of that nature, but you don't necessarily have to bomb it to him 50 or 60 yards down the field for a big play. They can create on their own. So that's more of what the Chargers need to be looking at there. So from there, just want to get into some of my personal favorite players at positions of need. And again, keep in mind, not all of these dudes are going to be the best at said position. I'm just looking at dudes who kind of fit need and scheme for the Chargers specifically because that's the team we care about, right? All right, cool. So right off the bat, let's get right into that hybrid safety cornerback conversation. Daxton Hill, of course, Jalen Petrie out of Baylor, Marcus Jones out of Houston, and here's a name, Alontae Taylor out of Tennessee. Reason being is because Alontae has a relationship with our DB's coach. And also, I think Alontae has played a little bit of safety, or maybe he just projects out to play better at the position. But he has pretty good coverage skills. He's developing because initially he was a wide receiver, and so I think he's only played 1 or 2 seasons at cornerback, something along those lines. Don't quote me on that, just off of the top of my head here. But what I saw from him just on film is that he's got the temperament of a safety. He's got decent coverage skills, so if you want to develop him, maybe have him stick and stay at outside corner, and he can potentially be your replacement for Michael Davis if you allow him to walk after this year. That's a plan. He's definitely a very good athlete, but I think there's a role for him at that star position if you want him to kind of get some snaps this season. I don't think he'd be much of a liability. Of course, there will be a little bit of a learning curve there, jumping to the next level, but I think he has the tools to get it done. So you may not have heard me mention the name before, but it's someone who's kind of been sticking in the back of my head, and I think it makes sense. From there, you got your wide receiver group. Chris Olave, Ohio State. J-Mo out of Bama. At this point, I'm going to be a little surprised if he falls outside of the top 12, to be honest with you. And again, that's me just listening to the stuff that's going around. Dude very well could fall into the middle of the round. We'll see. Crazier things have happened. And you got my dude, my guy, who I've been championing here pretty much as long as I have Treylon Burks, Mr. Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. He got to be all the rage, and I told y'all, keep in mind, I keep the receipts. You can go back into my Twitter. I think it started with me somewhere around January, February. I told y'all to watch out for him. And now he's a name. No longer a secret. That might push him up draft boards. He could possibly sneak into the back end of the first round. But, I mean, it's probably a safe bet that he won't make it past, I'm going to say mid-second. We'll see how that goes. And then Mr. Calvin Austin III out of Memphis, who, of course, fits the mold of that short area big play dude that I was talking about with insane quicks. Dude actually played 90% of his snaps on the outside at Memphis. So that whole diminutive 5'8", what is he, like 180? Didn't really matter. He was able to handle his business. He's a pretty decent blocker for his size too, which is kind of scary. But the next level, he'd be a menace. Not just in, a part of the receiving corps, but as a return guy as well. So, makes sense. We're talking offensive linemen. For me, a couple of my favorites, of course, at interior offensive line is going to be Zion Johnson out of Boston College. We all know his story. Plug and play dude. So, there's not a whole lot that needs to be harped upon there. We know what he can do. Really safe pick. Makes sense. You typically don't want to take a guard in the middle of the first round unless we're talking like a generational talent. He's just very good and solid, and he's going to take care of the position for, next 7, 8, 9, however many years. So I wouldn't hate it. Would rather trade back and get him if possible in the 20s, but I'd be cool with that. Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. He's played tackle. I see him as more of a guard. Very, very nasty temperament. He kind of has a similar attitude to a one offensive tackle who shall remain nameless. I'm just not going to say his name because. But I think he fares better at guard. Mauler, really athletic. Could he play tackle? Maybe, but I think his long-term prospects are probably going to be on the inside. Darian Kennard from Kentucky, who I also see as an interior offensive lineman, plays some tackle as well. But I just think he's better suited sliding on the inside. And Abraham Lucas, who's going to be your true offensive tackle out of Washington State. Again, these are all realistic picks for me. Not necessarily the best guys in the draft, of course, like I said before, just thinking about where they'll be available when the Chargers pick and whether or not they make sense for the schemes. Now, moving into a position again that I really like these particular guys at. Whether or not the Chargers make a move on it, who knows, because it might be a little early, too rich for them that soon in the draft based on needs and how their boards fall. But the tight end class isn't overly impressive, but the dudes that I like, I think fit really, really well into what the Chargers want to do. And you got you guys, my personal favorite tight end, and he's kind of running a close second with another one that I'll get to in a second, is Charlie Kolar from Iowa State. I turned on tape to watch Breece Hall, and he just kept popping up and kind of developed a little bit of a tight end man crush on him, and it's just grown ever since. I see a lot of people having him literally in mock drafts as late as the 6th round, which I think would be a huge mistake. But if that were to happen, somebody's getting a steal. Athletically, if you go look at the RAS scores between he and Travis Kelce, and no, folks, I'm not calling him Travis Kelce, but he has pretty much an identical athletic profile to him. Something to think about. You got Greg Dulcich out of UCLA, another good one. Dulcich probably finds himself in maybe third, fourth round. See him going somewhere around there. But my other guy who I'm super fond of, much in the way that I am Charlie Kolar, but for different reasons, is Chigoziem Okonkwo. Probably murdered his name. Buddy out of Maryland. That's my H-back crush. Dude can do a little bit of everything. Want to line him up as a fullback and let him lead block? He can do that. You want to sneak him out of the backfield? He's run after catch dude and extremely athletic, and he's a weapon. I think that's your Steven Anderson replacement if you really want him. And you can probably get him, it's probably another mid-round pick, fourth, somewhere around fourth round, somewhere around there, fourth, fifth round. We'll just have to see. But it's someone that I'm keeping my eye on very closely because I could easily see the Chargers taking advantage of a player like that. Let's get into, let's stick with offense. Might as well round this out. The running back class. To be honest with you, I don't know how soon the Chargers are looking to pick a running back. I wouldn't say any time before the 4th, which maybe eliminates my main guy, but who knows. Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati is my dude. Has been for a while, and if the Chargers get their hands on him, whoa boy, you talking about just explosive offense, however you want it. You can get him and Eckler on the field at the same time, and you can do some nasty, nasty stuff. So if he's there later, we're talking about into the 4th, if he somehow falls to the 5th, which I don't think he will, no question. You go do that. You got Pierre Strong out of South Dakota State, Jackrabbits. Super duper athletic, really fast, good feet. A lot of people look at him and see Darren McFadden with his running style, which I agree with. He also reminds me a lot of my all-time favorite back of all time. And again, people, this is not a comp. The running style just looks very similar. And no, I'm not calling him this Hall of Fame player, but he runs a lot like Eric Dickerson. Sad that you got to preface stuff like this, but of course, people take things that you say, twist it up, and try to make you into saying some crap that you weren't really trying to say. So just had to get that out there. You got Ty Chandler out of UNC, someone who is an explosive dude, size-wise probably closer to Eckler. So if you wanted someone in a similar vein, he's probably faster, and you don't lose anything in your receiving game, run game. He's probably not as good of a runner between the tackles as Zach, but it's going to be really hard to find someone at Eckler size who does that as well as he does. So you take what you can get, and you make the most out of the skill set that they do have. And here's one. Keontae Ingram out of USC. Was a Texas dude, transferred over to USC. I got to see him play in person when he was in Texas before he transferred over. I wasn't overly impressed with him at first. Then he got to USC, and I watched a little bit of him, and he reminds me a lot of Kareem Hunt. The running style is almost identical. He's got pretty good vision. He's not the fastest dude, but he's got decent contact balance. And he gets going downhill. He's running like a maniac. So he's someone who can take a bunch of the load off of Eckler and be a welcome addition. It's just at this point, when you're talking about taking running backs later into the draft, when you're talking about late round draft picks like that, which I'm assuming Ingram's probably 5th, 6th rounder, you start getting in the territory of backs that they've taken here in recent years, and I feel like he's more talented, so I'll give him that. I would still much rather Jerome Ford or Pierre Strong, though, so take that for what it's worth. And now, for the defensive side of the ball, well, back to the defensive side of the ball, because I talked about hybrid safeties and corners. Let's talk about interior defensive linemen and dudes who may have played some edge in college that may actually be better suited for like a 4-eye or 5-tech. So, of course, Jordan Davis, which this is who Chargers fans were clamoring for as soon as the season ended, because we were all traumatized by the lack of run defense. Then he goes out and has like the freakish combine performance, and then everyone was just kind of like, yo, gotta do it. And I've tried to stay even keeled throughout this entire process, because here's the thing. A lot of people look at him as a 2-down interior defensive lineman, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. With his athleticism, and I think I read somewhere he's been training with someone in particular on some of his pass rushing moves, so he can develop those. But worst case scenario, you got a dude who can plant interior offensive linemen in quarterbacks' laps on any given play, and that's valuable even on 3rd down. So if he's on the field, then he can literally bench press center, offensive guard into the quarterback's personal space, and you get that quarterback vacating to the edges and to the welcoming arms of a Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. That's more than useful. Will he penetrate right off of the snap? Beating anyone inside any particular set of moves right now? No. But again, like I said, that can be developed. And look, even if it doesn't happen right away, or it takes a little bit, if you're winning on 1st and 2nd down and you're keeping teams behind down and distance, that's still extremely valuable. You're killing offenses on 1st and 2nd down, and you're putting stress on them for 3rd and less than manageable. Makes sense to me too. So I can find an argument for taking him as well as maybe passing on him, because there's also someone else that I think can do something similarly a little bit later, so the value is a bit better. And that leads me into that person, who is Mr. Travis Jones out of UConn, who I've been, again, championing for quite some time. And Travis Jones has a very good chance of sneaking into the back of the 1st round. I don't think he makes it past mid-second, though. So this is kind of where those trade back options start coming into play, because I don't think he's a viable option for the Chargers unless they do so, because you're not going to take him at 17. I don't care what Chris Sims says. And unless you move up, you're not getting him in the 3rd. So there's that. Logan Hall out of Houston. That's a guy who can definitely play 4-eye for you. Extremely disruptive. Psycho at the position. Non-stop motor, super aggressive, and he's got a little twitch to him. I think that's a sneaky good pick. My guy Jamie Hoyle at the Lightning Round podcast is very fond of him, and I'm right there with him. The dude can ball, and if you find yourself in a situation where he's falling late 2nd, something like that, and you haven't taken care of that spot, that's somebody that they may consider trading up for, potentially. I don't know if they do any trade ups into the 2nd round post that 17th pick. Again, something I think they can keep an eye on. They've already expressed that, well, not necessarily, but just kind of reading the tea leaves here. Pay attention to what Tom Telesco said in his presser today when being asked, and it's been the case now all offseason when questioned about Jerry Tillery, 5th-year option. Really not much to say. I don't think they're fond of him either, and they're probably looking to move off of him. So don't be surprised if they start to look for his replacement. And Josh Pascal from Kentucky, another sneaky potentially back of the first round dude. If you're looking at him for what he probably is going into the league, which is another 5 tech 4-eye dude, menace on the end of your defensive line if you let him. He has like this sixth sense against the run. It's crazy how many times I watched him on tape penetrate and disrupt run plays. It's just really freaking nuts. He enjoys it. Psycho. And I love that. So probably another second round dude. If you draft him as an edge, he's probably like late third, fourth round. You're talking about 4-eye 5 tech. That's early second, late first round stuff. So keep that in mind as well. Edge. My personal favorite dude coming off the edge. Again, like I said before, not necessarily the best player at the position in the draft, of course, but a dude that has my heart. Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. Crazy bend. Some of the best bend of any edge in the entire draft class. His get off is very good. First step quickness. That's the type of person that you want to put behind or in a rotation with Khalil Mack opposite Joey Bosa. Just wow. His closing speed it's insane. There are a few instances where literally I watch him get a step on a tackle, whether it's an inside, outside move, whatever. Once he gets that step, you're not recovering. It's like his acceleration. I got to go back and check his RAS to see where his like 10-yard split was, because I would imagine it's got to be somewhere in elite territory. Whoo-wee. When he gets around, if he rushes from the outside, whatever technique he takes, once he gets around your offensive tackle and he bends, good luck. Your tackle's reaching, he's gotten underneath him, and your quarterback's probably about to get plastered. I could go on about Arnold all day, but wherever he goes, somebody's getting a gem. Outside of that, Cam Thomas, San Diego State. I think the talk about Cam was, I heard a lot more about it months ago. It's kind of died down a bit, but it's another good name. Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati, someone I was pretty high on prior to the combine, but then he lost a bunch of weight and didn't perform well there, and I think he was sick. Something to look into before expending a draft pick on him, but if he's fine, I think he's worth a potential third, fourth round selection. And speaking of freaks, Amari Barno out of Virginia Tech. They don't get much freakier than that. It's like 6'5", 240, 250, running. I think the dude ran a high 4.3. He may not have all the tools yet, but I'm taking a shot at that. That's someone with that type of you find a dude that size with that type of athletic ability, you spend a mid-round pick on it. And if you've got the staff to make it work, which you should if you believe in these dudes enough, otherwise you should be looking for some new coaches. He can be developed, even if it's in just kind of, if he's a specialist, just a pass rusher to begin his career, great. Look at who he has to mentor him. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. Doesn't get much better than that. And to round this bad boy out, the linebacker position, which I know is a touchy topic because of the whole Kaiser White situation. I really don't know what the plan is here. You've got Kenneth Murray with the injuries and probably not going to be ready for camp. It's been 2 years. So far, career has been injury marred. When he's played, it's not been great, particularly last year. If you want to take into account the injuries and the personal stuff, I get it. That rookie season, he amassed a bunch of tackles, but if we're being honest, it's like I said before. You can have a bunch of tackles on a bad defense, and essentially it's a situation where it's the smartest kid, dumbest class thing. Like, how good really was that? And you're looking at the average depth of tackle, all things to take into consideration. But some of the names that I really like at the linebacker position are going to be like Leo Chenal out of Wisconsin, who is another freaking maniac. I would send Leo Chenal on blitzes almost every play. I know that's not a real game plan. I just like to see it because I feel like he'd wreck any given play at any time. He's an athletic freak. He's not much in the way of a coverage dude, which again, you literally have to send him into the offensive line every play head first, kamikaze style, because I think that's where he's going to be best. Coming downhill, sniffing out plays that way, just looking to blow up running backs, quarterbacks, and essentially just being a disruptor. You got Chad Muma out of Wyoming, who I think is just a good all-around dude. You can get him probably, I don't think Muma falls out of the third, but yeah, again, it all just depends on when the run on these positions start. Troy Anderson out of Montana State, another do-it-all dude. Play running back, quarterback, and linebacker, and has a one of the all-time best RAS performance scores. There's a lot you could do with somebody like that. For me personally, the more you can do, the better in a defense like this. And if you can move the way that this dude can at his size, then it's another one of those dudes that you take a chance on in the middle rounds. And I'm saying middle rounds, he may not make it outside of the third either. And then you got Channing Tindall out of UGA. I mean, what else is there to say about another Georgia defender? They got a bunch of lab created in lab maniacs, mutants at every level of the defense. He just fits the bill as another one. He's probably a better coverage dude than I can't think of what the other linebacker's name is, but I think Tindall's probably a better fit for what the Chargers will be looking for at the second level. Just kind of to close this out, a few things that I think we want to establish here. How smart is it to take a risk at 17 on a player that has a lot of work to do? Now, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here. I told you I wasn't going to say the name. Screw it. I'm talking about Trevor Penning. Whatever. If you stay at 17 and your next pick isn't until the third round, you need to hit on that first round pick. You want to try to be as risk averse as possible. What about an FCS player with as many penalties as he's had over the last 2 to 3 years and 5 personal fouls just last year? And look, you can let people serve you up all you want about his Senior Bowl performance, but y'all saw that clip I retweeted, right? With all of his lowlights, there were several of them. It's amazing how people are just ignoring that because he's athletic and he's nasty. Well, yeah, he's nasty. He's also kind of dirty, which, I mean, if that's your thing, cool. But there's a difference between being aggressive and being an hole. I mean, you got to be a little bit of one in order to play the sport. You want to be kind of, sort of a bit of a jerk. But it's to the point of you're probably looking at multiple 15-yard penalties, personal fouls, and someone's going to have enough of that and they're going to try to break him, like illegally. They might try to do some weird high-low at the knee stuff. You don't want to be the dude that defensive linebackers have it out for. It's not the side you want to reside on. Long story less long, I'm not spending the 17th overall pick on that. You want to get something that's less of a risk, and I know it's the draft. You're not going to hit on all of them, but I'm not putting that dude at right tackle and expecting him to perform well in September, week 1. Yeah, he works with Duke Manyweather. We love Duke, cool, but I'm just not chancing that. And hopefully, Chargers see it the same way. We'll have to. All right, so I'm gonna let you kind of people roll out of here on this because you have been more than gracious with your time, and I have been rambling about for quite a while. This week should be fun. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed that it is, because one scenario could completely ruin that for me. But again, I'm gonna be positive about it and hope for the best. Could go a few different ways, as long as it doesn't go that way. But I digress. It's like I always say, you don't have to agree with your boy. Have your own subjective, informed opinions. That's all I ask. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusions. And if they don't align with mine, all good. Charge it to the game. I love you anyway. Till later, things don't go well, give me a day or so. I'll be all right. But again, here's to hoping that it does. Good vibes. Catch y'all on the next one. I'm out.